Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and today we're looking at Myst 5 End of Ages. This is a long intro, and then there's a couple of cutscenes pretty quickly after that, so let's just hop in. I've had some trouble starting this series, so we're gonna start a new save file.
My journey has come to an end. I have lost
We
my
get
home,
our intro
my
here,
books,
and
my
that
sons.
sets us up
I've lost my father,
to the elimination of Atris as a character.
my dear wife, Catherine.
It mentions Catherine and actually shows
And now
her,
I fear my only daughter
whereas
is gone
everything
as
else
well.
is just drawings.
And for what? For the slimmest hope that things could be put right. What began as my tedious life in the cleft, holding out hope for more, has returned to the same. I've gone to great lengths to watch the end be written, and now I find myself alone in a sandstorm in Tomana, waiting for a single grain of sand to fall. Dunny's future is like an hourglass. As the final grain slips through, I wait and I tremble, losing hope that the hourglass will be turned over once again. The age may just simply end, expended and lifeless. I have passed my cursed burden onto my cherished daughter, Isha. She has either understood and embraced it, or the weight of it has crushed her. I fear it has been far too long. My hope has waned. If Isha has failed, is anyone left who can understand? Oh, I am old and so tired. And once again, I am useless. Today, I will put an end to my useless waiting and go on to a better place.
So he mentions a better place as an idea, and that's just not something that they've really talked about in the Myst games as far as a afterlife. We get the mention of a maker later on, like a godlike character, which again, when you're talking about people who have a magical art to create entire worlds, it's a little weird to then have them talk about a maker in the fifth game that is even more powerful than your average creator. So you really can't change any of the settings until you get into the game, so that's why I didn't bother to show any of that. And then these characters, it's only a small spoiler to call them the least, and they kind of look like fly-like creatures. I'm not sure when I first played this game that there was that many different play styles, but for the most part, I think classic mode works fairly well for me. But then you get that pop-up when really you should be seeing these characters running away. Yeah. So, as far as just like brightness settings, they just tell you to calibrate your screen. So pause now if you want to calibrate your brightness. And as far as resolutions are concerned, they don't even really recommend 1080p, but if you uncheck the box, you can do that. I cranked up all the video settings because since this is a 2005 game, there really should not be any problem to have the video settings set perfectly. But you have to enable subtitles after that first scene. I turned up the number of sounds, and yeah, that creates I guess more background sounds. This game has got a lot of sounds that play a role, and see, inherently that is, I think, part of the reason why I've had so much trouble with this game is that as soon as I start playing the game, I get a major echo let me see. If I click mute, that's just muting the game. And there would be really no reason why this game would be listening to a microphone. Anyways, but it seems like it is. I don't know why. So the classic point and click, as we have our first trembler, is closest to the other Myst games. You move the cursor on the screen, you click to go, you can hold the button down to move quicker. In the environment, you can hold the right mouse button to look around. Classic Plus, you are just in a free view mode, so anywhere you move, the camera will move in that direction. I think by modern standards, you'd have to turn down the mouse sensitivity quite a bit. Otherwise, you are going to have a real hard time moving. Although, in fairness, that actually was too much. On the default settings, if you have a shaky hand, all of a sudden your screen's going to become very, very shaky. And then the third control style, which is what I think I played this game previously as, it is free movement, and I just don't recommend playing that at all, where you're straight up controlling a character with WASD. Not for a puzzle game, not when it's going to be really beneficial to limit your view to the pre-prescribed view when you're looking for something to click on and interact with. Yeah. So apparently this is either always supposed to have been a dunny prison, or it was turned into a dunny prison, at least for Atris, who was trapped here at the end of the first game. But he's gone, and his Myst book is locked up. It seems like a lot of ways they tried to sell this game and several other remakes around the singular concept of you get to return to Myst Island, but we've made it visually more appealing. And in this case, you're not going to get that reward until basically at the end of the game, I bet. Although it is weird that you can't just cut the letter bindings to access the book. This would be a shelf for other linking books, but noticeably they're all missing. He said he had lost all his books. He said he had lost all of his family, except for his daughter Yisha, which Yisha, when we do see her, is going to be a lot older. So we've gone since like Myst 3 and Myst 4 all the way through the life of Yisha. And really, Yisha is, I guess, just supposed to be the replacement character to Atris. There's a bunch of doors here, but only one of them actually has a handle. And that's kind of a shame, because even if this was supposed to be a prison, I'd still like to know what is behind this door, even if it is just another room exactly like this, or a hallway that leads to rooms exactly like this. It's kind of repetitive to walk around all of these places and not have any writing or anything to really interact with. And in fact, in this first section in particular, there really is a incredible lack compared to the other Myst games of interactable items. So I'm going to propose a theory and try not to make it said as if it is a fact, that even though this game is the Cyan Worlds coming back to work on Myst after having not really worked on Myst 3 or 4, it's still a Ubisoft published game. It's almost certainly a game that came out during a time of desperation where they needed funding, where they had spent way too much trying to make an MMO in Myst Online or Uru, whatever they were calling it originally. Here's the handle. That's the only interactable thing, with the exception of the book later, in this entire room, which that's kind of crazy. I feel like my theory is that they came back to basically just get a paycheck and end Myst in hopes that that might open up a path towards more of the open up a path where they could create different games, which, yeah, I don't know if that really is going ever had a chance of really happening. I guess maybe Ubisoft as a publisher might have funded them to develop another game if this one had succeeded particularly well, but that didn't happen. Alright, so we've got some weirdness in that voice audio is fairly loud and everything else is fairly quiet. Yeah. So let's try and adjust that by turning up everything, which I think means I'm gonna have to see what I can do here. Alt tab out. Okay. And I just struggled with adjusting all the audio, and now I have to immediately adjust it again. So I'm trying to turn up the audio, but is it really going to turn up what I wanted to turn up, or is it going to only turn up my microphone? Which, again, the microphone sounds too echoey, and I've tried 5 different times to get around the echoiness of the microphone, and had minimal success on that. The best I can do is, I don't know, yeah, and this has certainly had me going in circles with different settings on Windows. Like I'm right now not even really trying to use Windows at all. I have just like the entire sound settings turned down to 0. Yeah. Just trying the very best there. And what I'm hearing may very well be different than what other people are hearing. Almost certainly is. Let's see. So maybe I can do that. And hopefully that doesn't mess things up too much. So yeah, I don't know if that's really fixed anything at all. I do think I'm hearing the bats in the music a little bit better in the background. But I also can't just spend hours and hours messing with this audio for it to immediately change as soon as I launch this specific application. So I'll try my best there. You get a little music playing once it gets a little bored of you. So Myst 3, Myst 4 not made by Cyan, Myst 5 made by Cyan Worlds, which eventually changed its name, I think, back to Cyan. there are definitely some sound effects we should be seeing, and we'll see some of those fly creatures in the corners as we transition to different areas. They'll always just be kind of in the corner of a room in this first section at least. And they always basically run away from you. But they make a teleportation linking book style sound when they go away, so I suspect they're actually linking to other ages, just magically capable of doing it by themselves without using linking books, which is one of the several betrayals I feel like Myst 5 introduces into the series. Is you stop really understanding the idea of creating descriptive books and linking books, and it becomes very much magic where people can just wave their hands or they can touch a piece of fabric, and that's enough to be considered a linking book. Even Uru introduced that idea where a single piece of fabric could link you to a location. Which, yeah, the hard sci-fi element that you might try to extract from playing Myst 1 or Riven gets very much diminished into a very soft, magical fantasy element. You also see a lot of what look like Native American. Here's one of these guys running away. And then you hear that sound. You see a lot of what look like Native American symbology, and you pretty much just say that's Dunny culture, but I don't know if there's really too much to really take from the symbology that you see, other than it's just there to look cool. Noticeably, we're walking down this hall, however, and there is, again, just nothing to interact with. And while the game does look pretty good for a 2005 game, this darkness certainly highlights something that could be improved upon with a modern take on it. So you get this, effectively it's a camera and a logbook. You pick them both up and it turns into these symbols, and that then lets you create a journal in which you can type in, and save files, which are also pictures, trying to give you a little bit of a quality life improvement, although in all fairness, it's not the best camera you could ever imagine. And for this whole first section, you just don't know what you're really supposed to do. By this point, Atris would have given you some kind of hint. There's some more of these guys up here. There's a lot of rock elements at the roof where I'd prefer it to be more brightly painted ceilings, more like the Sistine Chapel. There's another one. It's very, very possible that you would have made it through this whole section and taken little notice of the bats flying around and not actually seen any of the least creatures. This looks like a door, but I don't think it ever actually opens. And you have this portal, which makes this feel like this is just some kind of a receiving room. Where people, I guess, can come up here and look through the windows and wait. Or maybe this is a prison visitation room, and maybe that's the logic if this is supposed to be a prison. I'd like it, preferably, just an opinion, that to be way better lit up as your initial area that you're going to visit, because it does basically make you wander around until you get to the only thing interesting here, which is this bubble portal with spiked teeth all around it, which is one more kind of betrayer of the canon of Myst. Myst has been exclusively about finding linking books, touching linking books to get to different ages. We've never seen a bubble orb thing. Now, if you were making an MMO, sure, it makes a lot of sense to have multiple players in a bubble and then teleport the whole group to an area. But that's not what they were thinking of back when they made Myst 1. So they made something canon and then they are just breaking it. And in this next conversation cutscene, that's effectively what we're going to get a lot of as we get talked to. We're going to be given a journey to eventually finish the game, and the journey we're going on is not really to free a person like the first game. So it doesn't feel as important. Even I think the third game and the second game, no, yeah. First game you're freeing Atris. Second game you're freeing Catherine. Third game you're freeing little Yisha as a little girl. Fourth game, I barely remember the fourth game, but I bet you're on some kind of quest to free somebody even in that one. Yeah, Yisha at one point definitely gets kidnapped in the fourth game. So maybe she doesn't get kidnapped in the... In Myst 3 Exile, the third game, you aren't particularly freeing somebody as your main goal. You're just chasing after a bad guy. So you walk in here, and then there's these tablets, and then there's this disc that appears from a fog when you hover over it. Meanwhile, you can see there's several different projected worlds, which is a cool idea. Cyan eventually, after sort of going into stasis for a decade plus, made a game called Abduction that worked very similar to this, where there was spheres of portals. So they took that idea and expanded on it. You also have these tablets with different symbols on them. But you can't just touch the walls and teleport yourself. And it looks like further in this area there's an entire island or city underground. My understanding of where we actually are right now is I'm not 100% sure. We may be in Dunny. Dunny may be under the cleft on Earth. This one feels almost like it's in space. There's a lot of maybes. This would have been the game to try to explain everything. And while they do explain everything, I think at the end they don't, I think, do a great job of giving a satisfactory explanation. So the only thing to interact with in this room is to click on this. And then when you click on it, it appears permanently. And that's literally all you can do. You've just clicked on it. So we've clicked on a handle, we've clicked on a stone tablet, and then you have to just eventually get bored and walk here for another long cutscene. Hopefully the audio is okay on this.
So, friend, the tablet has responded to you. Of course. If you're seeking my father, his time has passed. He won't be requiring your assistance.
So she calls you friends. That's
The
basically
book to
what the
his cursed
entire main
island lies
character
locked
for the
together
whole
in
series
dust in
has
his
only
prison.
been referred as. So you're the same guy.
Along with his pain and his burden, have been passed to me.
Notice this is not live action
And now you will know it too.
like the other games.
You will listen carefully. This is not to be taken lightly. The tablet has responded to you. It will be your burden. Choose wisely in the end, for there will be no second chance. Many have taken this tablet, and they tried not to let go. It is the power of the writing. It seduces all who try to hold it. I have held it, tasted its sweetness. But I can hold it no longer. They have served too long. Always serving.
She's looking up at the
ever
creatures.
watching. And now perhaps you will see how to release them. First, collect what's been scattered, and then the tablet will be released. Then you will hold it. You will find in each age along the journey that there will be help, and there will be hindrance. You will start this journey where I started, where my father Atris started, where my great-grandmother Tiana started. You will end this journey here, when the tablet is released. When you return, the tablet will be yours. When the tablet is yours, do not give it to me. What you still don't understand, you have failed to hear or don't need to know. Begin.
So she just waves her hand and magically teleports you to another cutscene with a different character. And if that was the first cutscene in the first minute or two, it would have been a lot better.
You're confused, no doubt. My name is Escher. It is my pleasure to meet you. She has given you the quest. Yes, quest. The quest to carry the four, the quest to release the tablet, the quest that is proving to be more difficult than she anticipated. Many have taken the quest, and the tablet still has no master. I will tell you what she will not. I will help you, but she will not. But she and I agree on this point. Do not give her the tablet. She has lied already. Uttered words that bite her heart as they leave her lips. She wants the tablet more than anything. She desires what she can no longer feel, but once tasted. You must not. Whatever happens, give it to her. Oh, she is the desert bird that longs to fly. She has dreams of taking flight in her ambiguous world filled with vague clouds and shadowed air. Careful. She is a clever, I'm sorry. I'm overwhelming you. Look for the hole in the ground. That's where your journey begins. I will find you.
Now he just touches himself, so either he has a piece of fabric or the magical ability to teleport himself too. Once again, not how Myst's canon has been. So, do you really need two long cutscenes at the front, back to back? I don't think so. Isha could have shown up a little bit later. I assume we are possibly on Earth here, although you have what looks like the knife from Riven when it fell apart. So this very possibly is the place where you may have fallen when Riven fell apart somewhat. I don't know. It's hard to follow one way or the other. But yeah, there's only nostalgic reasons why this knife would be here. And this knife was created and Riven by Gin as a way of just showing power in the descriptive book, I assume. They mention the great grandmother character. She's basically new to the story, and we'll hear more about her. We've completely skipped over the entire adult life of Yisha. She was a little girl in the last game, and yeah, it's hard to generally look at this without a flashlight, which would be helpful. You have to kind of just take your own meaning from this art. I'm sure somebody has a pretty good explanation on what it means, but I don't think too much of it's really going to matter. Clearly, this is part of the art that we saw at the first intro with Atris talking. But mostly, this is a hidden object game to get to that point where, while you're wandering around, you can see some what feel like Native American cave wall art. Having two cutscenes back to back like that makes it feel like you're not going to see people or interact with people ever again in the game, and that possibly the game is going to be fairly open world like the other Myst games, in that you can do it in any order and there isn't going to be any real narrative reason to stop that. Yep, this is Riven here, where the world falls apart and cracks. But it does sort of break the rules of a Myst game that you're going to have potential hindrances and helpers, because Myst games up until this point have been exclusively solitary experiences where you can take your time and solve the puzzles however you want, and in any time frame you want. It's worth showing off how nice modern technology can make even old water reflections look sometimes, depending on how it's programmed. Like, for a 2005 game, this water looks as good as a modern game, and the textures on the wall here, if they were just higher resolution, would probably look amazing. The main thing that probably fails more than anything is maybe just not dynamic lighting, day and night cycles, ray tracing shadows, or shadow mapping, some of the newer technologies. But you can definitely feel its age when you see the humans. which the Myst games have never been particularly good at depicting humans because they've instead opted to have full motion video humans, which doesn't work when you introduce animated fly creatures. Because, yeah. Although you could have had full motion video and the fly creatures being animated. And it's a lot harder to modernize the depiction of the 3D models of people. Inherently, Ubisoft's ability to help Cyan Worlds make 3D models probably came through quite well, and for a 2005 game, I suspect this is a decent 3D models. I am not sure where we are particularly at the moment. Like, we could still be in the same place, in just same age, same world. Could be on Earth, could be in Dunny. It may not matter too much at the moment, but we're gonna find these journals, I guess is what you'd call them, from Yisha, and then after those 2 long cutscenes, we've got
These
more
pages
reading.
Are my journey, my story, my path. They're not meant to cover up, but to reveal.
It'd be nice if
Sometimes
subtitles
in
showed
poems,
up
sometimes
while
in
the
stories,
voice
sometimes
acting was
clear,
happening.
sometimes vague, sometimes long, sometimes brief. But the release of these words is a soothing elixir to my burdened soul. The words must flow from me, or I will die. And in the end, these words are crumbs that spill along my path, and whoever eats these crumbs will know more of me.
So, yeah. We're shown immediately that there's 12 of these, probably in this whole region, because you just follow this path and you're already to the second one.
I am finding where I am by understanding where I was. And everything I was is linked to the island of Myst, the refuge. And I must know where they were as well. My heritage, my people, my family. My father, the prisoner of the hidden and the revealed. Raised by Tiana, who hid the truth. Then raised by Gen, who revealed the truth. But Tiana hid for love, and Gen revealed for power. Mother, too, nothing more than a slave to what she knew and what she felt. Taught by Gen to write what she knew, then taught by Tiana to write what she felt. But Gen's teachings imprisoned her, and Tiana's teachings freed her. And in the end, through the hidden and revealed, through the known and the felt, through the good and the evil, through the gods and the devils, they came together. Together they came, father floating and mother caring, father knowing and mother feeling. And my great-grandmother Tiana watched, and my grandfather Gen fell. And so began our path of pain. Tiana was called the Destroyer, but she brought them together and lived with them on Myst Island. Father could not keep Myst simple. New structures and new ages he brought. Mother could not keep Myst solitary. 2 new sons she brought, my brothers, Cirrus and Achenar. And they grew up strong and hungry and lustful, like their grandfather Gen, unable to control the power of books, the power of writing ages. And as a result, all became prisoners in their refuge. I will never return to that place.
So there was more text here. I didn't flip through it. But it's exactly voice acted, and I do appreciate that it's voice acted, because in previous Myst games, there's almost certainly been half of the game that I haven't actually bothered to read when you get into the bibliophile extra books. But it certainly would be nice if instead of telling, the game was showing us those characters that she's referencing showing us the locations on Myst Island. If we were finding these books and then seeing visions of Myst Island or walking around Myst Island, that would have been much nicer. There's another one. I think there's even another one up there. Yep. But the game really isn't to find all of the least creatures. You get a kind of awkward angle there. And then this looks like a location where Yisha probably sleeps and hangs out. Weirdly, you have yet another door that you can't really reach or go through, which is a bit of a tease. You have yet another book, which, yeah, 40 minutes into the game, you really should have a puzzle to solve by this point, if not 2 or 3, or at least there should be interactable objects. Unlike the previous game, noticeably there's no way to click or pick up and look at pillows or tapestries. It's just a bleak, empty room where previous Myst games almost certainly would have paintings, tapestries, items to look at. Yes, there is this one thing showing off what I assume might be a bit of a hint, but might also very well just be concept art. But very quickly, you're just back to the 3rd book.
Pride is a thief. Pride stole the soul of the Denis people. Pride stole my own brothers. The temptation was too great. It is not the power, but the desire for power that destroys. That desire is in my blood. The blood of my ancestors, the blood of my flesh. I fight it, but I am pulled even now. My father tried to hide what he valued, his books and pages, while my brothers tried to hide what they valued, riches and power. Father was trusting, or naive, and ages and people were destroyed. And so my family was imprisoned. My brothers in ages written by father. Father in a Denis prison he had escaped from in childhood. And mother in the world she loved and feared the most. Riven, her home, her refuge. Perhaps it's why I now fear my home, my refuge. And then by the maker or by the roll, a stranger found the book. The book had been intended to be destroyed by fire, but by the maker or by the roll, it was taken far away. The book was preserved until it was time. Surely it was the maker who preserved the book that would bring help. Now it was time. A stranger found the book, came to the island and freed father. A lesson was learned. A friendship was forged. Friendship. The least are my friends. I must use the least wisely. I must listen to them and respect them. They are powerful, they are willing, and they are afraid.
So, basically getting more backstory of the previous games, which I severely doubt anybody would have played Myst 5 without at least playing Myst 1 and Riven, the sequel to Myst. I could see people skipping 3 and 4. You, in this dialogue, have her mention the maker or the role, as in like a god or chance. And in the previous one, she mentioned gods, plural, and demons or devils. I forget the exact word. But it's weird that would be a part of their culture at all. Yisha, as far as I know, was never raised amongst people on Earth. She was always in her own age, raised by Sirius and not Sirius, Atris and Catherine, and so their culture was always very nebulous, but it seemed very much like it wouldn't be anything we would really recognize, and if anything, it felt like it was mostly a religious belief around the arts and science, the arts being the magic to create different ages, linking books and descriptive books that create the age, linking books to link to the age. At least that's my understanding of how they were doing things. Of course, that's all now out the window. Now, if you play Uru in either its single-player version that was released later or the Myst Online fan version that still exists today, you probably would recognize this device in that it gives you a electronic bracelet to unlock access to more linking books instead of living with the idea of linking books being very movable and that anybody could take them and anybody could use them. So you have this like pedestal here that I'm not sure what it's supposed to be, but it doesn't seem to do anything. Whereas this pedestal is back to that idea where you would stick your hand on this bracelet and then it would open the book and let you teleport away. Which this seems to me to be a hub world. If you look at it, it seems like there's 4 of those portals and you just walk around in a circle to go from one location to the other, which Abduction had something like that too, in that there was a central hub area where you teleported to a lot of places. Let's go check it out, I guess. I imagine we can't get anywhere from that. And we have yet another cutscene as soon as we get here.
The Rebo. An age for resting.
When he's looking around, it would be nice
Such a
if
peaceful
the camera
place.
took control and showed us looking
And
around.
The way to get to the first age. There. That profane thing and the other pedestals like it are not of the Fni. They are a regrettable part of this journey. The pedestal will allow you to link in a manner similar to the book that brought you here, but know this. They are perverted tools of the creatures. The creatures. You've seen them. Always watching. Calling to one another in the darkness. Loathsome. Wraiths. They are not as we are. Remember that. Touch the pedestal. It will bring you to the age of Tagira. I will find you there.
So, in the first game, you're introduced to 2 brothers, one that seemed obviously crazy, and then the other that seemed not so crazy. Eventually, you find out that they're both a little crazy, and you shouldn't trust either one of them. Let's see. Can we flip a switch to open a path? Yes. Will we find a closed gate on the other side of the path? Yes. Can we flip the switch just reaching over? No. So this is just a hub world. I doubt the game is going to really give you any kind of feeling like you should trust this guy. He'll talk to you and tell you things, I'm sure, but if he thinks for a second I'd give him the tablet, he'd have to make a much better argument. That's weird. There's a button here to push when it seems pretty obvious you would just swing the lever over. But that is kind of the problem here, is that you obviously could just jump over this. Like, nothing's gonna stop you in the real world from jumping over this. Or, heck, let's just assume you were a person with broken legs. You can obviously walk, so why not just walk in the mud and skip the bridge? Like, doesn't look like there's creatures or something dangerous in it. If it was tar, maybe that would be disastrous. Not a particularly interesting skybox with just purple haze everywhere. And there is something disconcerting about when you walk, you don't really get any footsteps. Listen, when I click here, it'll be absolute silence, as if you were just floating in the air. Which, that's a little weird. And modern games definitely have textures that are programmed to make different sounds. Some games do a lot of that, some games barely do any of it, but you will get at least a slight crushing of grass under your feet, or gravel if you're standing on gravel. This would just take you back to another where you were. But yeah, we now know that the guy doesn't like the creatures, and Yisha does like the creatures, and we haven't really done anything with the creatures other than to see that they have run away from me. You, out of the blue, get this blue book, which is just your logbook in case you need any recap of what's been told to you. Although weirdly, it doesn't include these stories. And you could imagine that it might just go all the way to the left with several different collections of books. Let's go ahead and make a save file. And yeah, that seems like that is long enough, since you're never really going to get a great spot to end or take a break in this game. There's no real threat from the look of it, so you can just take breaks whenever. So I think this is a pretty great spot to end this episode. Does it really make a lot of sense to go to the main menu? No, not really, but I'll do it. So yeah, that's going to be it for this episode. I'll listen to the audio and see how echoey, if echoey at all, it sounds to you. And then I'm going to try and make a recording on using a different game and see, just double check to see that it is just this game that adds an echo for some reason. Anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to support me further, there's some links down below in the description. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.